just about to begin, and that will begin with some bagpipe music composed by Barney Mulhall, who is a Dublin Fire Brigade member. He's going to begin our ceremonies with a piece he's written himself called Tears.
It is my great honor and pleasure to welcome you today to these most beautiful sacred grounds of the War Memorial Gardens. Instruments of Peace are really lucky that the Office of Public Works have generously offered this place as the venue for the celebration of the UN International Day of Peace here in Dublin. It is a very fitting place for such a celebration as this, because here we are reminded of the futility of wars and the importance of peace. The 49,400 Irish soldiers who died during World War I and are being remembered here are a strong reminder to us that we, the younger generation and the future leaders of the world, have a great task to do. We need to work towards the eradication of wars between nations and violence between peoples. I am a student living here in Ireland now for almost 2 years. In my life as a student here, I have been able to appreciate the beautiful life that is possible where there are no wars. That is why I feel attracted to the work that Instruments of Peace do. They remind us that peace begins with oneself, and that to change the world, I only need to change myself. The annual celebration of the International Day of Peace is a good time to make or renew that commitment to change oneself in order to change the world. As the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon stated, this year the International Day of Peace is dedicated to peace education. Peace education teaches us about values and knowledge and encourages one to develop attitudes, skills, and behavior so that one can live in harmony with oneself, with others, and with natural environment. I spent this summer in India, where I volunteered with SUS, an Irish NGO which aims to improve education of children in the poor countries. Myself and another 91 volunteers helped out at improving the quality of education of the poor children in India, which unfortunately are oftentimes victims of child labor. Education is the key answer for the problems of poverty and all other life-serious questions. Being educated is a necessity to keep people's minds open and give them the power of communication. International Day of Peace 2013 is dedicated to peace education in an effort to refocus minds and in order to promote peace education as the means by which we can bring about a culture of peace. It is my great honor to welcome you all today in the name of Instruments of Peace, and I wish you all the power of peace in your life as you go into a minute of silence, a moment of peace. And in the name of Instruments of Peace, I invite you all to think of Syria or any other war-torn country in the world and send your peace during the 1 minute of silence. Thank you.
As Avril said, the theme for this year's event is Education for Peace. And Secretary General Ban Ki-moon told of how educational aid from the UN when he was a little boy in South Korea helped him to become the person he is today. He also said that in all the war-torn places, the refugee camps, the developing countries, the places of conflict that he had visited, the number one priority of the people on the ground living in those conditions was education. They know that education is not just about books, exams and results. Education is about learning to see, learning to be, and through education comes understanding. And through understanding comes acceptance and respect. Respect for oneself, respect for others, and respect for the world that we live in. In his speech, he urged us all to be active global citizens and to take ownership of our responsibility to the world and to each other. I was very struck by the young people that I met at the UN. Their commitment to creating and striving for peace in their own lives and localities and communities was unwavering and was full of passion and full of love. After the event, many of them came up to me and were eager to hear about what peace projects were happening here in Ireland. They were interested to know what other students were working on and how they could connect with our young people. So this week alone, I have witnessed the passion of young people on both sides of the Atlantic who are driven to using their talents, gifts and energies in a personal commitment to peace. It was very inspiring and humbling to learn from examples set by those younger than me. But it was a really good feeling that I was meeting some of the future leaders, and it felt good, it felt bright, I felt encouraged and I felt hopeful, and I still do. When education activist Masala Yousafzai spoke at the United Nations in July, she said, "One teacher, one book, one pen can change the world." Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and to the students of Gorey Community College. It's a great pleasure for me to be here today representing the Lord Mayor of Dublin. And as I was saying to some of the organisers beforehand, the venue we're in here today, I live very close by here, but 15, 20 years ago, it was a place not as beautiful as today, and it used to be the face to it, Brits out, etc. So we see the huge transformation in our own country over those years. And who would have ever have thought 2 years ago Queen Elizabeth II and the former President McAleese would have met here to commemorate all those who have died in wars. And I think it's fitting today that we remember those people. The UN International Day of Peace, now celebrated for the last 32 years, is a day that belongs to everybody. And according to the UN General Secretary Ban Ki-moon, as he addressed the gathering at the UN headquarters last Wednesday for student celebration on the UN International Day of Peace, he said the International Day of Peace is a time for reflection, a day when we reiterate our belief in non-violence and call for a global ceasefire. We ask people everywhere to observe a minute's silence at local noontime here today to honour those killed in the conflict and the survivors who live with daily trauma and pain. It is fitting then that Instruments of Peace have organised this event here today as we celebrate in the beautiful War Memorial Gardens here in Island Bridge. As you know, Dublin is amongst the international cities for peace, and the Lord Mayor of Dublin is a member with 5,551 mayors for peace worldwide. It is good then that Dublin has taken its leadership in promoting the observance of the UN International Day of Peace. And we are happy that Instruments of Peace have taken the initiative in creating the world's first Peace Weekend Festival, now in its second year. My former colleague, Lord Mayor Nisha O'Wara, launched the festival last year in Dublin Castle Gardens, and we wish Instruments of Peace every success in developing the festival future. I just looked on the internet today in relation to today, and I thought it was important that Ban Ki-moon was speaking on the International Day of Peace. It pledged that children, teachers would value tolerance and mutual respect, let us invest in our schools and in our teachers to ensure, particularly in an island like Ireland today, where we've seen so much where dialogue has improved the quality of life for everybody. And I met a few years ago Colin Parry, and I know on Wednesday he had the Deputy First Minister of the Northern Ireland in Warrington. And I think you can see at first hand how people can forgive people who have had terrible crimes committed against them, and I think it's very, very important. I'll just finish here with a small little prayer here. Uh, the ship, steer the ship of my life, good Lord, to the quiet harbour, where I can be safe from the storms of sin and conflict. Show me the course that I should take. Renew in me the gift of discernment, so that I can always see the right direction in which to go. And give me the strength and the courage to choose the right course, even when the sea is rough and the waves are high, knowing that through your enduring hardship and danger, we shall comfort and peace. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to see everyone here and to celebrate International Day of Peace together. And I'm especially delighted to see so many children and students, because you are the future peace builders in Ireland. So sometimes when we talk about the ideals of peace, they sound very lofty and very abstract. So I would like to give you a lived experience of peace building that's working very well in Dublin City at the moment. I think often when we hear about the concept of peace, we welcome it, but we wonder how it could be possible. We're hearing reports daily about how the opposite is actually going on, and I think then it becomes necessary to hear about when it's working. So I'd like to talk just briefly about how the vision of one person can change a city and ultimately can change the world. And beginning with one person, that it can spread into the community. The first seed for the beginnings of the Dublin City Interfaith Forum was planted during the Council for a Parliament for the World's Religions in Brussels in 2009, when Adrian Christa asked the question, what if we were to create an interfaith forum in Dublin? And one that wouldn't focus on theological dialogue, so what ideas we share and what ideas we don't share in terms of our faith, but one that focuses on working together for social justice and to create a very organic process of integration for the rich diversity of religions and ethnic groups that had joined us in Ireland in the last 15 years. The forum was officially launched in January 2012, and we consist of 23 different religions from 7 major faith groups. We are Baha'i, Buddhist, Christian, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, and Sikh. And we work together to educate people of different faiths to dialogue and to work together in matters of policy, strategy, and action, and to challenge all forms of injustice and discrimination. Our experience has been that not only can we work very well together, but at the core of our solidarity are deep bonds of friendship that have arisen from both sharing our vision for peace and the kind of Dublin city that we envision. One where every single person feels welcome, where every single person feels that they belong, but also by having very frank discussion on the points that we do not understand about each other. We have shared food, we have visited each other's places of worship, we hold seminars on the contribution of faith communities to civic life, we attend seminars on racism, and we've held 2 annual peace walks. Those are just a few of the things we've been doing. We have agreed, we have disagreed, and we've agreed to disagree. But always we hold our vision of peace at the centre of everything that we do. And we need to share our vision to find out that other people actually have the same vision. So just to finish, I'd like to share my vision with you. And I'd like you to visualize a tapestry that's woven. And on the horizontal, you've got every single colour of the rainbow: red, yellow, orange, black, white, silver, gold, indigo, violet. That represents all of us and our diversity. And then on the horizontal, you've got these tight threads that hold the woven piece of cloth together. If you can imagine that the vertical threads represent our shared focus for peace. So when we lose our focus for peace, or when our difference becomes more important than the shared goal, all of the horizontal threads start to become loose and the cloth falls apart. So in moments like that, if we find ourselves not understanding other people, instead of focusing on the difference, what we need to do is focus on the vertical thread, on the shared vision for peace. And I think if we do that, what we end up with is a cosmically brilliant, rich and dazzling peace tapestry, where not only do each of us have a place, but each of us is actually essential in holding the whole piece of cloth together. So I would like to leave you with this image and with the idea that it's actually the vision of each person that makes peace possible. Finally, I'd like to share a quotation from my own mentor in life, peace builder Daisaku Ikeda, third president of the Soka Gakkai International. All human endeavours must have as their point of origin a concern for people's welfare and a desire to contribute to human happiness. Otherwise, the human race will ultimately just continue to stumble aimlessly from darkness into darkness. If that happens, what use to us then are economics, politics, and culture? Everything depends on people, on their character, the development of their humanity. So let's really make a vow together today that we will do everything that we can to make our country and our world peaceful. Thank you.
It's an honour to be here, and it's a great honour to read Seamus Heaney's lines from The Cure at Troy. His version of Sophocles' work Philoctetes, which concerns the Trojan War, and it concerns the reconciliation of a number of people involved in that war. And Seamus himself wrote in another poem that the end of art is peace. And he saw poetry as the voice of reality and justice in expressing terrible events, thinking of the terrible events that thankfully no longer apply or exist in our country. From The Cure at Troy by Seamus Heaney. Human beings suffer. They torture one another. They get hurt and get hard. No poem or play or song can fully right a wrong, inflicted and endured. The innocent in jails beat on their bars together. A hunger striker's father stands in the graveyard dumb. The police widow in veils faints at the funeral home. History says, don't hope on this side of the grave. But then, once in a lifetime, the longed-for tidal wave of justice can rise up, and hope and history rhyme. So, hope for a great sea change on the far side of revenge. Believe that further shore is reachable from here. Believe in miracle and cures and healing wells. Call miracle self-healing, the utter self-revealing double take of feeling. If there's fire on the mountain or lightning and storm, and a God speaks from the sky, that means someone is hearing the outcry and the birth cry of new life at its term. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You may remember Abraham Lincoln won the Civil War in the United States. And when he won it, he treated his former enemies with mercy and great respect. But he was criticized and reproached for this by his hawkish advisors, who were saying to him, you've got to destroy your enemies. And Lincoln's reply was classic. He said, do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends? Now, we've already had a reference to an extraordinary event at the Garden of Remembrance 2 years ago, when two great women, our own President Mary McAleese and Britain's Queen Elizabeth, who were good friends themselves, stood together, and Elizabeth, an 85-year-old, slightly stooped, armed with nothing but a handbag and a smile, laid a wreath for those in the 1916 Rising who had died fighting against the British Crown forces. It was an extraordinary symbolic gesture, and it really undid centuries of hostility and hatred between the two countries. As Jesus said, hatred springs from the heart, from inside. It begins inside us. And it burdens the one who hates more than it burdens the one who is hated. So peace too stems inside us. It starts inside, and it's a delicate, fragile growth that has to be really preserved. It's easily disturbed, so we have laws against incitement to hatred, knowing how easily our hearts are perverted by hatred. But this morning, in this lovely place, is a moment of gratitude that with all the differences we have within this country and with the neighboring island, that we are still living at peace. Thank you.
So let us now begin our moment of silence. Ladies and gentlemen, may I encourage you to welcome that peace that you've just given to the world into the world with a round of applause for your efforts. And with that, the release of our 31 doves represents a beautiful symbolism of peace and how it can fly and spread around the world.
And I know that it is love. This place could be much brighter than tomorrow. And if you with no fears. Together we'll cry happy tears. See the nations turn their swords into plowshares. We can really get there if you care enough for the living. Make a better world, to make a better world. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. You and for me. You and for me. Heal the world we live in. Heal the world we live in. Save it for our children.
I would like to thank all of you for assembling here. I particularly would like to thank Donna McKeown, who has done an exceptional job as our MC today. One of the other people who it is important to thank is our Executive Director, Rosemary, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but has put enormous work into making this event and the other events of the Peace Festival weekend a success. Finally, just a couple of other thanks to be offered. I'd like to thank our friends from Civil Defence for being with us today, the members of the Garda Síochána who are here, and the Office of Public Works particularly for being kind enough to give us this fantastic venue that we're in today, this rather sacred piece of ground to mark our Peace Festival. The Peace Festival continues tonight and tomorrow in Cork, and will conclude with a minute's silence in Cork City tomorrow at 12 o'clock. May I just say that as all of us leave this place today, perhaps we should think what we can do as individuals and collectively to make peace on earth prevail. Thank you very much.
All we are saying is give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance. Everybody's talking about bagism, shagism, thisism, thatism, ism, getting money, making money, bangs and war. All we are saying is give peace a chance. All we are saying